Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Toronto St. Paul's Liberal Leadership Interview Series. I am Mike Sharon, a proud member of the PLA and host. Over the next 4 weeks, we're going to hear from all of the amazing candidates running to be the leader of the Ontario Liberal Party. Now, this is the first time we're electing a leader using the one member, one vote system. And as a result, when you do vote on Sunday, November 26th, you will not just be choosing one name, you will actually be ranking the candidates. So it's important to get to know all of them as much as possible. And guess what? We have a candidate right here. I am so very pleased to welcome Member of Parliament for Ottawa Centre, Yasir Naqvi. How are you, Yasir?
I'm great, Mike. Thank you for doing this speaker series, and a big thanks to all the volunteers at Toronto St. Paul's. And I'm excited to kick it off.
Absolutely. Well, let's get right into it. What has emerged as the number one issue for you on this campaign so far?
Yeah, I think the number one issue that has emerged, which I think is going to be the very big issue that Ontarians will be judging all parties and leaderships on, is trust and ethics. I think Doug Ford, through his incompetency on how he has dealt with the issue around Greenbelt, the fact that he got caught with his hand in the cookie jar and had to do an entire reversal on taking away precious Greenbelt and giving it to his buddies. Ontarians will be asking the question, who is the most trustworthy leader to lead our province and be the premier of our province? And Ontarians are looking at our party. They're relying on us to do that questioning and make sure that the leader that we elect pass the mark, the grades on trustworthiness. And I think that's why one of the things that our party members need to really look at very closely is that among the four of us, and they're all four good people running with hardworking, lots of good ideas, whose political instinct is the instinct of a liberal, who stands in stark contrast to Doug Ford and would be able to prosecute Doug Ford on issues around trust and ethics without putting themselves in a position where they may have to answer questions around who are their donors, what kind of views they've had on Greenbelt or the direction of our party. So I think that has developed as a very important issue for our members when they're choosing the next leader, and because it will be an issue for Ontarians as well when they will be deciding as to which party to elect and who to make premier in our province.
Absolutely. They do seem to be on a streak of self-inflicted wounds right now. Do you think that there is so much time between now and the next provincial election that will wane in terms of importance with voters and something else might crop up? Like, I guess I'm sort of thinking, the housing crisis definitely seems to be top of mind for a lot of people, and it's certainly not particular just to Ontario or even Canada. But what would you do to help address the housing crisis? And if you can speak about, the riding specifically, but also the province in general.
Yeah, so what I'm have found out traveling our beautiful province in all four directions, that the top three issues that people are talking about, and there's real struggle out there, like you can sense the anxiety is quite palpable, is around healthcare, education, and affordability. And in affordability is affordability of living, affordability of owning a home or renting a home. And so housing actually is a very significant issue. My point of view is, number one, that in order for us to be successful in the next provincial election, Ontario Liberal Party has to go back to its roots, being the practical problem solvers. I'm a liberal because I always believed in practical solutions that will make your life easier to live. That's our job. And so I really want to champion those type of ideas. If you look at, for example, housing as an issue, I think first of all, we have to be absolutely clear that no one level of government can solve the housing problem. You really need strong partnership between all three orders of government, federal, provincial, and municipal, along with private sector, because they're the one who build housing, and the not-for-profit sector when it comes to affordable social housing, which I think not-for-profit housing providers are the best people to provide for that. So we need a leader who actually is a consensus builder, somebody who can bring these three levels of government along with private sector and the non-profit sector together to say, hey, let's roll up our sleeves and work towards building more housing. I, in my housing plans, have offered three concrete ideas, and let me address two really important ones. One is, and this applies to Toronto even more so than the other parts of the province, that one of the highest barrier to building more housing is development charges. These are charges that municipalities like City of Toronto charges of developers to provide for public infrastructure. You know, we talk about all the underground stuff, sewer, water, electricity, natural gas, etc. The cost of those development charges in Toronto for a 2-bedroom condo is in excess of $80,000. For a home is close to $135,000. And what those developers do is they pass that cost to home buyers. And so home buyers are the one end up paying for public infrastructure. What I'm suggesting, and it's been endorsed by so many housing advocates, is that the provincial government should upload that cost. The provincial government should pay for the cost associated with developing and building new housing. Developers then to bring that cost down by 80 to 135,000 less, so that homeowners paying that much less. And we give that money, we make municipalities like City of Toronto whole by giving them that money to build public infrastructure based on outcomes, right? Better public transit, density around public transit, gentle density around neighborhoods. And so we can do two things through one step. One, we can bring the prices down, and we can also incentivize municipalities to do the right thing in terms of the kind of housing we need to build, both affordable and private housing, and do it in a manner that creates more density, so we undermine urban sprawl. Very quickly, the second thing I think provincially we need to do, keeping in mind all of our province, is that we need to find ways to ensure that as our population is growing, which is a good thing, that is also getting spread to other parts of the province. There are so many beautiful mid-sized communities. I'm thinking of Peterborough, Belleville, Cornwall, Sudbury, Sault Ste. Marie, Brantford, Sarnia. All those communities have great amenities, great quality of life. They're looking to grow. They want new people to be part of it. And provincial government has a role to ensure that new people who are coming into our province consider those communities as their home. Young people who are starting to build their lives also consider doing that. And you do so by enhancing connectivity, building better trains, building better roads, making sure there's good internet for the professional class who can work virtually. That's the work we need to do. Doug Ford did the lazy thing, which is to unlock the green belt, because it favored some of his friends, as opposed to doing the more difficult work, which will around building consensus and bringing partners together so that we're getting housing built not only in cities like Toronto and Ottawa, but all across the province.
Yeah, no, well, thank you for that detailed answer. You know, and in 3 minutes or less, you can solve my healthcare question for me too. So healthcare, like the single largest line item in the budget, and it's not getting cheaper, it's getting more expensive with every passing year. You know, what opportunities do you see to improve patient care that are also fiscally responsible and reasonable?
So this is the number one issue that you hear all across the province. This is the number one thing people are concerned about. And there's two challenges there that we need to solve for. And the kind of practical Liberal Party that I want to work on, I want to focus on those two things. Number one is the health human resource challenge. We have a shortage of doctors and nurses and other healthcare professionals in the system. We need to find a better way to recruit them and pay them appropriately. And for that, we need to invest in our post-secondary education so that we have more medical admission opportunities, more nursing school seats, and other healthcare professionals, which, by the way, we don't even meet the G7 average at the moment with our population growth. So instead of losing our young people to go to other places like UK and Australia and Ireland and Caribbean countries, let's make sure that they're staying here. Second thing is we need to do better in licensing foreign trained professionals, especially doctors and nurses. Mike, this issue is really personal to me. My family and I came 35 years ago to Canada. Both my parents were lawyers, and they were not able to practice law for a single day in Ontario because their credentials were not recognized and because they didn't have Canadian experience. And very little has changed over the last 35 years. So I, for one, want to make sure that over 60% of the internationally trained doctors, which amounts to about 4,000 doctors right now in Ontario, who are unable to practice medicine, who are driving Ubers or working in labs, are given an opportunity by creating a defined pathway where in a very short period of time, they can be those professionals, and we can actually create incentives so they could be also serving in rural communities and northern communities. The second big issue in healthcare is mental health care. So many of us are not feeling well. We need to make sure that mental health care is universally accessible, just like primary health care. It has to be covered under OHIP. If you've got private insurance, fantastic. You will keep that private insurance. But if once you run out, there's a top up. And if you're somebody who does not have private insurance, it will be covered under OHIP. I think those are the two immediate things that we need to focus on, because they also help on the prevention side of things. To answer your question that you said, how do you cover the cost of ballooning healthcare, is by making sure that people remain healthy, both in terms of their primary health and their mental health.
I want to ask a little bit about you. You referenced your parents. You obviously have a very established career in politics. Were they your motivation to get involved?
Yeah, so thank you for asking this question. As I said, my family and I came to Canada 35 years ago. Politics is very personal. I think it should be personal to all of us. And to me, it goes back to when I was 10 years old. Both my parents were involved in pro-democracy movement in Pakistan, the country that I was born in. In fact, when I was 10, my father led a pro-democracy march. For that, he was arrested, tried in a military court, and spent 9 months as a political prisoner. And so you can imagine young 10-year-old Yasir facing that experience and seeing his parents, who despite the fact were well-to-do professionals, but did not accept the status quo. They got out of their comfort zone and they challenged the status quo. Similarly, when they decided to come to Canada, because they wanted to make sure that their children are able to live in a free country where we are able to do whatever we put our mind and hard work to, they again did not accept the status quo that they were enjoying because it was not good enough for them. And so that has shaped me in my upbringing. That is why I got into politics. And since I ran for the first time in 2007 and was elected, I have always tried to challenge the status quo, because I think tomorrow, I'm one of those people who believe tomorrow will be better than today. And we have to work towards that. And that is why I decided to seek the leadership, is because I want to make sure that the status quo in our party is broken, that we are able to transform our party all across the province, so that we're competitive in every single region, so that we can champion practical policy ideas that will really improve the lives of all Ontarians. I benefited from that. I call the promise of Ontario, and I want to make sure that the promise that Doug Ford has broken is restored for all Ontarians.
Do you think we are still in kind of a brand rebuild with the Ontario Liberal Party? Do we have a brand? Do we need to do a little bit more repair work?
Well, so we have a lot of hard work ahead of us. And I think the good thing out of this leadership, and I'm really glad that the party chose a different system, as you mentioned on the top of our conversation, that we're for the first time doing one member, one vote, which with all ridings given equal points across the province. It has been, I think, has done wonders for our party. All five of us, until Adil was part of the race as well, have crisscrossed this province. We have signed up thousands of new people as party members. Look at the media; they're no longer writing our obituary anymore. They see a really vibrant race that is taking place between the Ontario Liberal Party. But that's not sufficient. So I always outline a 3-point plan that I will follow if I'm elected the leader of our party. And the very first part of that plan is to transform the Ontario Liberal Party, is to do things differently. And that starts by building 124 strong riding associations across the province. We, excuse me, have built a reputation of being a party of big cities, Toronto and Ottawa. But we're the Ontario Liberal Party. We have to be the party of the entire province. There are good Liberals in every part of the province. And our job is to make sure, as the leader, I will ensure that we're building the party in every region so that we're competitive in every region, so that we can say that we are speaking for all Ontarians, not the urban Ontarians, but rural Ontarians, for Northern Ontarians. And that is important work that needs to happen so that we can earn the trust and respect of voters in the next election. Look, my mission is to defeat Doug Ford in 2026. And for that to happen, we not only have to build that party, we have to be focused in championing practical solutions to some of the key problems people are having. And number three, for party members like yourself and those who are listening to this conversation, elect a leader who's relatable, a leader who has faced the same kind of struggles as everyday Ontarians have faced, a leader who knows how to be able to speak to people as an equal, somebody who feels and is like their neighbor. I think that are the three key ingredients through which we can earn the trust and respect of Ontarians and defeat Doug Ford in 2026.
As you say, you've crisscrossed the province. You've met with numerous Liberals. What have you learned that has surprised you?
Oh, wow. Good question. So first thing I will tell you what I've learned is how big, beautiful, and diverse this province is. Ontario is a beautiful place. I've lived here 35 years of my life, most of my life in this province. My entire time I've lived in Canada, and I've been to parts of the province that I had not been to. And what made me realize is that people have the same dreams and aspirations, no matter where they live, whether they live in downtown Toronto, in your particular community, or downtown Ottawa in my particular community, or they're living in Moonbeam, Ontario in Northwest. We all have the same dreams and aspirations. That we want to make sure that our parents have access to good health. We want to make sure that our children are getting good education. We want to build a quality of life that will allow us to have a comfortable retirement. And as I was suggesting to you earlier, people are struggling all across the province. It's palpable. The anxiety is palpable, and they're really looking at us. There's a renewed sense of hope towards Ontario Liberal Party. And that's why we have to be really smart in electing our next leader, making sure that we do not elect a leader who people may feel is not trustworthy, who is a pale imitation of Doug Ford and will be engaging in the same old politics as been done before in this province. They're hoping for us to elect a leader who is trustworthy, who has a story that is the story of Ontario, and is going to champion practical ideas like I'm suggesting to do. The other thing I will quickly say is that because the province is big and diverse, the one big thing I've learned is that the macro issues may be the same, but how they're implemented is different. What will work for a community in Toronto may not work for a community in Sudbury or Thunder Bay. And I think the big lesson for me is that when we do form government in 2026 by defeating Doug Ford, is that we really be nimble and flexible, that we come up with solutions that is as inspired by people from those communities that work there, as opposed to coming with solutions that work for big cities like Toronto and Ottawa and try to then fit them in smaller communities. This province is too big for it to work. And that's going to be a real challenge that I'm so excited to take on.
So Toronto St. Paul's, it's a very liberal riding association, but it isn't right now. So we
came very close.
We came close,
yeah.
But NDP twice in a row. How do we win it back?
you know how we win it back is by making sure that we have a nomination as quickly as possible, and so that we have a candidate, a good candidate in Toronto St. Paul's, and there's about 30 ridings, by the way, that we came 3,000 vote or less of winning. And so as a leader, my big focus is going to be is to get you up and ready and to go. And I will say to you, see you on day after election in June of 2026. Go find those missing votes. Let's start having those conversations right now. There's no mystery as to when the next election is going to be. So for me, the preparatory work will start on December 3rd, the day after I'm chosen as the leader, and it will be to work with riding association, making sure that you have the resources that you need. I will come and fundraise for you. I will come and knock on doors with you, and let's find a candidate who inspires the constituents of Toronto St. Paul, which is a fairly educated community, who is part of that community, so that we can start building the case of why the good people of Toronto St. Paul should re-elect a Liberal, as they have done so well with people like Eric Hoskins, who's a good friend of mine, Michael Bryant before him, and who served the community so well.
Yeah, let's get it back. Hey, so our time is winding down here. I want to get to a couple of questions from our membership directly. Jordan asks, Doug Ford's only path to a third term in office is vote splitting between the NDP and Liberals. How are you going to avert this?
Well, so I think for me, we are a progressive, practical party, right? And I don't think our path forward is to be a Doug Ford light party or an NDP light party. People are smart. If we run as Doug Ford light, they will elect the real guy. If we run as NDP light, they will vote for the real party. People want us to be the Liberal party. And for me, what makes us Liberal, and I keep saying it again and again, is the champions of practical solutions, right? We're the practical problem solvers. We're not ideological by nature. And so the way I define myself as a Liberal is somebody who's fiscally responsible, who's socially progressive, and who believes in that we all should benefit from the prosperity that we create, right? It's not on the expense or the exclusion of anyone. It's inclusive of everyone. So for me, the way we will shine is really focusing on key issues that people are facing: healthcare, education, and affordability, especially around housing, and champion practical ideas to solve those issues. And I think that's how we will be able to distinguish ourselves both from the Conservatives and the NDP.
Dane asks, what is your position on the Ontario Place secret lease to Therme Spa and the idea of moving the Ontario Science Centre to the waterfront?
Well, so this is Doug Ford doing what he did with the Greenbelt, right? He's running this province like his personal business and making deals without following the due process, without having consultations, without listening to people who are impacted by those decisions. I haven't met anybody who's happy with Ontario Science Centre moving from the place where it is, or the kind of sweetheart deal that this company Therma has been given to privatize Ontario Place. And so I have a huge issue with the decision making and how those decision making has been done. But I think it's very indicative of how Doug Ford does business, and it's even a more incentive or impetus for us to stop him and not have get reelected beyond 2026, so that we can prevent such lopsided deals that are not in the interest of Ontarians, but are in the interest of Doug Ford's friends.
Yasir, thank you so much for this. I do want to give you the opportunity now. Like, this is for you to showcase you to our members. Is there anything that you would like to say directly to our members that we haven't covered today?
Yeah, well, I just want to quickly say thank you for your engagement. This is a very exciting process, and you have a very important role to play as to the kind of leader we will have on December the 2nd. Let me just tell you this quick story again. As you heard, I came 35 years ago. I was 15 years old when we came to Canada. Both my parents were lawyers. but they were not able to practice law because their credentials were not recognized. So they did what a lot of families do. They bought a small business, a motel in Niagara Falls, Ontario. I cleaned rooms, I washed bathrooms, I made beds while going to school. A recession hit and we lost everything. Our family of 5 moved into a small 2-bedroom apartment. Mom and dad had 1 room, my sister got the other room, and the 2 boys had the living room. My brother got the couch. He was older than me. I slept on the floor. But we as a family pulled together and we worked hard and built our lives again from nothing, and we have built very successful lives. I share that story because that's the story of Ontario. And we need to elect a leader who can relate to Ontarians, where Ontarians can see themselves reflected, a party that is a mirror to the province. We were very fortunate because we had a really good public healthcare system and a public education system. I call it the promise of Ontario. We could rely on to build our lives. And Doug Ford has broken that promise. And the task for us, the task for me, if you elect me, is to restore that promise of Ontario by defeating Doug Ford in 2026 and making sure that people have the opportunities to live fulfilling lives. So I ask you to please consider me, and I hope to keep working hard to earn your vote to become the leader of the Ontario Liberal Party.
Thank you. And look, raising money is a requirement in politics too, and there's no shame in asking for a donation. So if you'd like to donate to Yasir's campaign, please visit yasirnaqvi.ca/donate. And also, please consider donating to our PLA. You can do so at ontarioliberal.ca/donate. Make sure you go in that drop-down menu and pick Toronto St. Paul's, because that's the way we get the money. And now, Yasir, anytime somebody puts up their hands and says, I'll do it, I think they deserve our heartfelt thank you. And thank you very much. Running a leadership campaign is a sacrifice on you and your family. I wish you the best in the rest of this campaign. Thank you so much for this conversation. I've thoroughly enjoyed it.
Thank you. Thank you for organizing this. A fantastic idea.
That's great. Thank you so much. And thank you to everybody for tuning in. We'll be back next week. So check your inbox for the details. Goodbye, everybody. Have a great day.
Bye, everyone.